Recording in progress.
Hello.
We are a progressive podcast.
Welcome to Always Strikes Last.
We're striking
Intro music
last.
being worked on.
We're striking last and having a good time.
Yeah.
Someone's
Welcome to the
patience
show.
out there is wearing thin. All right.
Let's see if we can stretch it a little bit more. No, seriously, how's it going, guys?
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Yeah,
I'm Miles,
welcome to
and
always.
I'm joined by Jack and Matt, as per usual. Jack, welcome back to. Well, I guess I'm not where you are, so it really seems ridiculous to welcome you back to the United States.
That's true. I was in like epic Mordor, Europe, across the mountains and be forced into the mines of Moria. You're in like Hobbiton, more. Like
Hobbiton.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Green fields and pasties and elevensies and all that.
Oh, I love pasties.
I'm just in Endor. Hanging around on the moon of Endor.
There we go.
Well, it's good to be back, guys. I did have a chance to listen to our podcast last week, when I was coming back on the flight. And I heard a lot of tales about how my mind was going to be blown. And I'm excited to have it blown.
Excellent. I think it is going to get blown because so many things are happening in the game right now.
It's actually almost too much to keep up with. It's too much to fit.
I think it's specifically too much to keep up with. I don't think it's almost too much to keep up with.
Yeah, we're definitely in that zone right now. I think we were thinking about it before the episode, and we realized that we are in the midst of a storm. We are maybe in the eye of the storm, but there's definitely a Booknado going on, and no one can be expected to really have this stuff dialed in right now because it's too much all at once for that to really settle yet.
Indeed.
Yeah. The powers that be have misaligned their release schedule, and now we are feeling the bite of the invariable correction. So what did we just come up with? Was it 8 books? So if we include Gloomspite gets KO, Beast of Chaos, Slaanesh, Khorne, Bone Reapers, and Soulblight, and then we are on the cusp of Seraphon.
Lizard Wizards.
So that is 8 or 9 books. I was not counting very well, but that's like a third of all the factions in the game.
Basically, just in 2023, like right now,
have been released in the past 4 to 5 months, depending on when you're counting.
It's so nuts.
It's too much. It's such a crazy value proposition too, right? Before we even approach the rules and all the interesting stuff we like to focus on here, just imagine like trying to convince your buddy that they want to be in this cool competitive game. Like, so here's what you got to do. You got to go drop $450 to make sure your rules updates stay current,
right?
You have a good reference, and then you go from there. Also, you should buy some models in addition to that.
Well, and then the insanity of, will they be current? Are we at the end of the books before the edition? Dun, dun, dun. As we've seen with some other editions that are coming up.
Well, I know Flesh Eater Courts are still yet to be updated.
That's true.
Maybe they'll be the bad guys in next summer's 4th edition starter box.
I really want that.
Interesting. They need some more units, that's for sure.
Right? Yeah. Although it's hard to say that we've established a cycle because we've had 3 data points, but I thought it was going to be a chaos bad guy in next starter box based on the pattern thus far, and not a death faction. But maybe we're getting off track. We have a Booknado. Let's deal with the matter at hand.
Here we are talking about a Booknado, and we're like, hey, what's the one that hasn't been updated?
Yeah, exactly. Let's not worry about that. So do we just want to run through them sort of rapid fire and give the impressions of what's cool about the book, how strong do we think it is, and I don't know, anything else that you find super dope?
spicy outtakes maybe, but I think that's fair. We don't have to do a full book review of each book in like 5 minutes. Obviously, the whole other podcast dedicate many episodes to that, and we occasionally, play around with it.
So
I think we've gone verbatim on, the Destruction and Beast of Chaos books previous. So we don't really need to delve into those.
Sure.
Probably just the what is it? I think Khorne and Slaanesh. Have we gone into that?
I don't think we have. So let's do it.
Really, yeah. All right, where should we start?
Do some blurbs. You got it, Miles. You got it.
Oh no, I was gonna say, you two as our resident Slaanesh players, what's the deal? What's cool about this book?
Everything. Slaanesh is the best.
Yeah,
it's my world. I love
it. Makes me feel good in a bad way.
Yeah. Slaanesh finally got a rule that doesn't feel abusive. You are trading off whatever you're doing with it. And you're basically making your opponent you're forcing a decision on your opponent, which I think is probably the most fun thing you can do in a game because that creates an interactive environment. Mm-hmm. Now, the outcome of that decision is probably going to work in your favor regardless. But there is, they can choose which way it's going to work in your favor, which is even better.
And I haven't decided. I probably depends. It's probably list dependent. It's probably dependent on what you're playing. But in my games against Slaanesh so far, I feel like the choice is always give the depravity points. Because you're going to hit 36 depravity by turn 2, 3 anyway. Have at it. At which point, I don't care how much depravity you have because you're not summoning anything.
I don't know. Back and forth. It's army. Well, it's definitely matchup dependent. Because if you're going to use the combat thing to fill or to farm depravity, you're going to run into problems if you're up against, let's say, like Beastclaw Raider heavy army, or I don't know, Slaves to Darkness with 2-up saves that you just can't get through, right? Mm-hmm. So it's matchup dependent on that, and even then too, right? If you're up against Chaos Warriors with 5 and up shrug, it's not going to be as good for, hey, do you want that 6?
Sure. Although I've been playing some Maggot Kin of Nurgle, and I had plenty of he was getting plenty of points off me. Don't you worry.
Well, the dice abide, right? The dice abide.
Yeah. But that makes sense. That makes sense because they want a fat sack of wounds, right? That's really the ultimate depravity generator thing. They don't want tough nuts to crack. They don't want to have to burn all those attacks on something with max 10 depravity get because it's like a 10-man unit or something.
Right.
They want to be like, here's 50 depravity bucket. I can mostly kill it and get all that I want, either in a single or double activation with a keeper or something nearby. And you probably won't kill me back, which is the ideal.
But if it seems like a lot of people are going with the don't summon grand strategy, and as we've talked in the past, grand strategies are extra important depending on what meta you're in or who's running the tournaments. And so, given that I know they're not going to use these points to summon, because it would be a 3-point loss, and potentially tournament points. Once you hit 36, I don't care how many depravity points you have. It's fine.
And you got it, Jake. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll run to this, but if I don't catch this, what you're thinking, Matt, you jump right in. But I'm going to say that's the rub, though, Miles, because 36 is the floor. It's not the ceiling. If you get there real quickly, you get more. You can still use the excess of Summon Demon. Just manage around maintaining the 36 so you have your global buffs. And then it's even worse because you're summoning all these demons with buffs.
Exactly. But that's my point, is that most people are using the don't summon grand strategy, summon nothing.
Mm-hmm. And that's the trap. That's the easy entry trap, right? So that's the one you want to use while you're learning the book. The other one, which is just have 36 by the end of the battle, is so attainable that it's just done. So
there we go. You choose that one, basically.
Yeah, so the non-summoning one is great when you're learning the army, and I would entirely recommend that because it forces you to start learning how to gain those points, right? Mm-hmm. And keeping them at a certain level. And then what it does is it teaches you how to see how much you can get after that, right? Once you've gotten anything after that, the summoning is kind of cheap for the book. So, and all the units now kind of stand up on their own. I'm running a heavy Twin Souls list still, and pair them with the Lord of Hubris and Lord of Pain, and they will just eat through anything you need, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, in my handful of games against them, they've hit. And granted, I'm doing my strategy of always choosing the D6 depravity points,
feeding them. Yep.
but they've always hit 36 by turn 2.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's because you're helping them.
Yeah, but
you go with the mortal wounds because you can shrug them, right? And you can heal. I'd say if you're going to go up against Slanesh, that would be an easy thing if you're playing Nurgle or Slaves to Darkness. If we're going to throw it at a character, just tank the mortals and then force me as your opponent to have to grind you down. If you're already in a place where you can grind down, then you should be able to shrug it, right? Sorry.
I feel like I was taking so much damage anyway, so much regular damage, that because he was going to max out on depravity soon anyway, right? He was getting 20 depravity a turn just from the combat, right? Where he's going to hit the max anyway. I might as well help him along and then just not take whatever it is, 30 D3 mortal wounds.
So maybe that's the strategy there is until he hits the 36, take the mortals. Then once he hits the 36,
have at it.
Give him whatever he wants, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think for sure, because I think you'd preface this, Miles, with whoever you were playing was doing the strat.
Yeah.
Just don't use it. Then it is like at a certain point, you can basically force him to dump 3 whole victory points by ever trying to summon something. But in the version that Matt was talking about, where they just get to 36,
there's much more play. Yeah.
And that's the core of the book, right? It's making you have to make decisions as an opponent that will or will not hurt you, and it's going to be beneficial depending on how the Slanesh player plays, right? So that's the character of the book, and it works so well.
I want to throw out one quick closing thought on the book before we maybe move on to Blades of Corn, because I know we have to do a whole bunch of Booknado elements to get through in this short period of time. But the one thing that I can't wait to do modeling wise is I try to complete my quest of painting everything from the battle tome, which is above 75%, I'd say.
Nice.
Brave soul.
We're getting there. But I need to make little demonette thirst trap dice holders to just hand to my opponents every time I want them to do like a temptation roll.
The Danny DeVito ones, right?
Pretty much. Can I hit you a dice in this trying time? He's going to be in there. It's going to be like 5 demonettes and Danny DeVito. It's going to be the best coverage.
Love it.
That'll be great. You can have him holding up a 6 and just like they're a Sesame Street presenter, and
exactly
just pop it next to the unit.
So admittedly, on Blades of Corn, I haven't actually had time to look at the book because of Booknado, right? So I'm gonna lean on y'all's experience. I haven't even had time to play a game against them. I'm so sad.
Fair enough. I'll throw some thoughts out real quick. I played one whole game against it, and
a whole game
with the.
You mean it, Mister?
Yeah, really. And the funny thing was, it's like I had played a lot of Blades of Corn recently. Part of that, so it was all used to their shenanigans, and now it's all different again. So same sort of deal. Quick impressions are. Blood Tithe is a thing. There's a lot of nasty stuff they can do with it still. Everything seems a bit better, and it's harder to hurt at range because of this 5-up shrug if you're more than 12 inches from them. They don't have as much of a crazy technical thing going on with Scarbrand, basically consolidating in and doing 36 mortal wounds without engagement and stuff like that. Instead, they just seem like they want to run around and hit stuff, which is fairly in tune, with the with the general idea of Corn. But they still got some tricks up their sleeve. I remember my opponent, a great guy named Alex, doing this thing where one of the priests was able to do something to let a Bloodthirster do a bonus move. So it basically moved over everything and then was able to get where it wanted because it was, the flying Axe Thirster. And that sort of thing seems pretty scary. And of course, they can still do out-of-sequence combats by burning Blood Tithes in additions to summons and things like that. And they have another one where they can just burn one and have things move, I think it's D6 inches, even into combat. So that can catch stuff out pretty easily.
Yeah, so they're still interacting in the hero phase then with the opponent. That's great. It's just power through. Just like, yeah, we don't care what your phase is. We're just going to do this.
Yeah, I feel like they got the treatment that a lot of these books are getting when it's not like a major overhaul, and it's sort of like, let's go through, we'll tidy up some of the things that were these sort of janky things that y'all were exploiting to keep this book relevant. We'll tidy that stuff up. We'll give you a nice quality of life upgrade in terms of some allegiance abilities that are more straightforward, a few stat buffs here and there. But basically, we're keeping the status quo of this book. They want to run, they want to hit, they want to. But also, I still think that there's a lot of intricate play in Khorne about, it's always been a faction that you want to be within your bubbles. You want to make sure that you haven't overextended. And I still think that's true, right? Like, it's not the mindless run forward and smack it machine that everybody wants it to be because of the lore.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, still a lot of that it feels like is in there.
So I'm actually going to counterpoint that because Khorne is a martial god, so he's always been about murder, but he's also about being the best army out there. He's got a battle as well as murder and blood, right?
That's true.
So I always thought that Khorne specifically was a great tactician's army, and it sounds like it's continuing that trend.
That's my impression.
You are forcing, area of effect abilities, et cetera, and then having a toolkit to interrupt your opponent or basically take control just because you want to, because that's Khorne to me.
I think that's true, but maybe part of it is like an element of Khorne is being chronically misunderstood, right? I mean, at the cocktail party, he's always just going on about roaring and skulls and his throne, but he does have that keen intellect, cunning strategy side because, of course, it's war,
right?
And I feel like it's got to go all the way down, right? I mean, I'm sure like when they're in like the camp of like braying cannibals trying to roast the latest captive, someone's trying to get down to some cunning maneuvers in the strategy tent over there and pushing things on the map, but it must get distracting when people are always viewing you that way and want to come out to the feast.
No, and perhaps it is my highly basic understanding of Khorne that is really at fault here.
Well, you're really just thinking of them like orcs, right?
Yeah,
you're thinking of the brutal ones. So I get it. Makes sense. Yeah.
But orcs, it turns out, also are not a blindly run forward and punch it machine.
They want to be.
Yeah, they want to, and it's just not a good idea. That's never a good idea.
This is totally on point with the theme of the Booknado. It's hard to know exactly where anything is falling right now.
Yeah. Some initial impressions on Khorne, though, is they are such a good anti-magic army now. 5-up, they have spell ignores across the board, and then I want to say you get a blood tithe point on a 5-up anytime you ignore a spell. Does that check out? Or anytime you're affected by a spell? Someone in the comments, let me know. Anyway,
right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I'll take it.
Stuff like Lumineth Rune of Petrification or the Simulacrum of Tzeentch, which are AoE endless spells, are all of a sudden huge blood tithe batteries for the Khorne player.
Good. Needed.
And so, yeah, just getting, because there's an interesting interaction where I want to say and this is just terrible audio. The FAQ for this interaction is that when you have a spell ignore, it happens right when the spell goes off, and then if it's an aura, anytime you enter the aura.
Oh, that's even better.
So you can walk out and walk back in, and then get the roll again to get another blood tithe point.
Or you can get knocked out of combat and then pile back in
to get it again. To
like
get
that,
exactly
cool.
To get the blood tithe point.
Nice.
So there's lots of ways to sort of use, and I don't know if they'll FAQ it a second time or whatever, but that seems to be the intention. And I don't know if thinking about it any harder, like if I would have come up with a better way to sort of handle this, these sort of AOE endless spells in terms of this interaction.
I love that. I mean that turns your oh man, I can't remember the name of the rank and file guys.
Blood Warriors?
No, the even worse guys.
The even less good guys.
The Blood Men?
The Blood
men.
The Bleebida Blahs. The Bleebida Bloop Blues. Oh no, I forgot. They're Blood. Yeah, they're all the same. Blood Reavers.
We know.
Oh, there it is.
So,
okay.
Right. So that turns them into if you're up against anything, let's say you're up against Lumineth and they turn sun metal weapons on, right? You're getting hit with a spell effect, right?
I think they buff themselves with it, but like, if you're fighting Lumineth, they're going to try to, when Total Eclipse goes off, or if they try to heat wave you or erasure you or whatever, all of that stuff counts. And they have so many area of effect abilities. So especially with the rune of petrification being so popular.
So that really just brings in like Blood Reavers again, is those massive generating pieces, because now you can get it when they die like normal, which is all they're really good for. And then I can see, as long as you're within an area of effect in combat, right? Let's say you start combat in an area of effect, the rune of petrification, or what are they called? Basically any spell, maybe even a horror ghast, right?
Sure.
Get yourself knocked out of combat. You pull, let your opponent go first. Pull your model so you're out of the area of effect after you've already triggered it. Then pile back in, trigger it again. Then you can just ad infinitum start just using Reavers to just be like,
no, exactly. And I'm really interested to see what this does to the meta. Well, obviously we're in Booknado, so who we'll never know. At least not right now. But those Meta Watch articles keep coming out seemingly every 3 months, and Tzeentch and Lumineth keep being at the top over their magical 55% threshold.
I still need to look at those lists and see why.
I think it's going to change. There might actually be a fun, like, separate topic for one of these. Like, where's the magic? Right? We just talk about like these top performing lists, and I know that some other people have like looked at the builds there, which are pretty common, and like the cool things they do. And I've run into at least some of it myself, which is a bit interesting experiences. So we could have a chat on at least our impressions. But I digress.
But also, that's going to be pushing the meta in that same direction to continue with our Booknado, is the Ossiarch Bone Reapers and the Null Myriad subfaction.
Yep. Still doing the ignore magic thing? Because I haven't read it.
Yes, exactly. I haven't read it either, so that's really great.
Womp, womp, womp.
I know.
Let me tell you what I've garnered from the cover.
They also have a 5-up spell ignore army wide. Is effectively the short version of it.
Well, it's almost even better. So you can roll a dice each time a friendly Null Myriad unit wholly within 9 inches of a friendly Null Myriad Mortisans or Arcan is affected by a spell. On a 2+, you ignore the effects of that spell.
Oh,
so they can get some players pretty salty about it. But again,
that's a command ability, right?
No, it's just an area. It's their what do you call it?
Oh, nice.
It's their subfaction.
I got you.
So wait, that's on every unit? Does 2-up ignore spell effects?
Only within 9 inches of Null Myriad Mortisan or Arcan is a 2+ ignore, which is really good.
I missed the Mortisan or Arcan requirement there, but that's still really strong. I mean, that build would shut down entire other builds. That's like a hard counter.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of different ones. I'm still always going to be about the Staliarch Lords, because rerolling charge rolls just means all of your RDP is going to be
just CP
really
now.
good. Yeah, but I'm still going to call it RDP because you get so much of it. And then
the OG term for CP now.
And then Mortis Praetorians get to do a reply charge if somebody finishes a charge within 12 inches of a unit.
Nice.
And then I think Petrifex Elite is going to be low key the winners.
They always have been.
Just because the Hekatos and the Gothazar Harvester are going to be subtracting 1 from damage by any successful attack. And it's not the full army, but they're really good now. Yeah. So it's something I would want to see. And then how they're going to blow your mind is they just get a CP essentially for basically 3 or more. You get 1 CP if there's 3 or more friendly Ossiarch Bone Reapers. You get 2 CP if there are 5 or more, and you get 3 CP. And that's extra command points outside of the 2 that you get.
The potentially 3 that you get at the beginning of the game or the beginning of the battle round.
Yep.
2 to 3.
And so they still have exploding 6s. But the cool thing is they can just straight up, they have like a full page of command abilities that you can use. And there's no restriction on those. So they have finally.
So you can't use all-out defense more than once, but you can use the special Bone Reapers ones as many times as you want.
Yep. So you can have an entire line retreat and still charge.
That's exciting.
You can heal up to D3 wounds over and over and over. You can do an insane amount of tactical stuff. And they're pretty good. They've always been kind of that attrition grind blender army with a couple of really good scalpels. And I think they've kind of notched that up a little bit and just balanced everything. Gone are the days of the insane, like 1+ feeling army of, 2nd edition. Not that they were, but it felt like a 1-up save, right?
Sure, yeah,
when there was no rend anywhere. Gone are those days, but they've really balanced it out in that you're not just you are an anvil, but you're an anvil with options. So there's no reduction to the way that the army can play by playing within 3rd anymore. Now it has the full advantage of all of the command abilities and its own like slew of a toolkit and the extra command points to do.
I really like that they've done this and they've merged the RDP with the actual command points because it makes this book a little bit more future proof to the edition change. As we move into the next edition or next THB, if they change command points a significant amount, or the standard set of abilities that you have, maybe we'll go back to re-rolling 1s. I don't know. I hope not. But
I hope not.
You could imagine. This book will not get lost in the dust. They will still have access to all of that stuff. And use it the same amount that everybody else can.
Yeah.
Well, good impressions there, guys, on our friends over in Ossiarch Bone Reaper Land. But what about the other death that came out concurrently? The Soul Blight Gravelords, another element of the NATO.
Apparently it's a sleeper book. I've had a chance to look through the only things that concern me, which is my 4-1 vampire list that I'm always running with all the Black Knights, 2 zombie dragons, Neferata, and the White Lord. And I'm starting to get messages like, hey, are you going to run that? Because now it's insanely terrifying. Before that was an army that it was usually my game to lose. And that's no offense to my opponents, but the way that the book works and the way that the army was built, it almost kind of played itself.
And
that's fair.
And I generally don't like playing that style because, it's it can be a little cruel. Well, that list is now extremely cruel because everything has gotten the bump that it needed. Dragons are a little bit better, a little bit more consistent. Neffy is insanely good. Black Knights now throw 2 dice on the charge per each model, and a 5 and up, that's a mortal wound. So you can
or enough
see,
if you're near a White King.
Yep. So you can see how insane that list is now. I'm actually kind of afraid to take it to tournaments because I really don't want to be that guy.
But just do it once just to say you did it, and then you can quietly retire it.
You're allowed to because you did it before it was cool, right? This is like
but now it's cool. Now I can't touch it.
You have like no, you're the hipster who had this record, but no one knew the band. You can play it.
Yep.
Matt, you can dance if you want to.
But I'll leave my friends behind. I'll leave them behind.
Black Knights. And give them the frights. With a White King close behind. There you are.
There we
go. Well done. Well done.
I'm going to throw a thought out on the Soul Blights. I love it. I know people have seen the Sleeper book and there's some changes, but I'm going to be the countercultural person here and say that maybe it's because I have 180 of them plus sitting there ready to go. But I think zombies got even better, and they're awesome now. And it's because they've totally reworked them. Done.
Yeah. So break it down. Break it down. I haven't been able to look at the zombies yet because I haven't got my book yet. I've just seen what the screen caps were and people talking about a couple units. But I also have an insane amount of zombies and skeletons. And it felt bad having them throw mortals on 6s in the older book. Mm-hmm. So are they still doing that?
No, well, yes, conditionally, but here's kind of the differences, and I think why they're so much better. So I'm going to make my point with it. But they used to be right, like you could move around, they consolidate in like 6, kind of like the lurch into combat thing, and if they got a 6 to hit, they would do a mortal wound, and that was nice. You could build an army around that. That was fun. Now they are substantially better in actual combat rather than having 1 attack at like 5 up, no rend. It's 2 attacks base at 5 up, 4 up, no rend. Still bringing zombies back like they used to on a 2 up if they kill something. Mm-hmm. But their big change is they no longer consolidate 6 into combat, they no longer automatically do mortals on a 6. If they die on a 5 up, they reflect a mortal wound back on whatever killed them.
That's better.
Dangerous speed bumps, yeah. And of course in combat, but like you have that going for you now. And you kind of combine that with a couple other things and it starts to get crazy. Mm-hmm. One, when you bring back stuff, with like the I forget what it's called, but they're bringing back zombies or whatever dead or some of the units ability it is. Now you don't have to just like show up 9 inches away from grave sites and enemies and with new heroes. It can be up to only 3 inches away. So you can drop them like right in front of things and make people fight them. Take objectives, create speed bumps, whatever. And it also doesn't happen like kind of rarely once in a blue moon, only once in your turn, maybe increasingly with the better odds if things have died. It happens pretty reliably in a 3 up in your turn and in a 4 up in your opponent's turn. So things can come back all the time. The recyclable potential is high, which makes zombies doing this stuff 3 inches away and becoming death speed bumps like really good if you have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Combine that with the fact that if you do actually need these things to survive or punch a bit harder, the corpse cards now project an aura of giving them back that 6 creates a mortal wound bonus, so they're good again with more attacks, by the way. You can give attacks to everything with nearby vampires, not even as a command ability, just for free. So that can go to zombie hordes too. And last but not least, there's pretty easy ways to give 5 up ward save rather than 6 up ward save for deathless minions to these zombies. And there's one way you can give a 4 up to a unit with overlapping aura. So you can have an overlapping 4 up ward save 60-man blob of zombies, or 40-man if the spacing is too tight.
That sounds like an investment probably in points, but probably something nobody's going to want to attack, right?
Yeah. And I don't know, at least from my perspective, it just seems fun because when you want them to die for like recycling potential or to become speed bumps, you just take them out of the auras and put them where they need to go. If you need to castle up or make something like a bad target, you can kind of do that too.
Nice.
That sounds so fun. I love zombies. I love it when they show up again, and you're always like, oh yeah, that's right. They are in this game.
I mean, it's funny because they were pretty heavy in the meta around here Like there were at least 2 or 3 players that were like, okay, we're just gonna do what's their name? Graveguard and
Graveguard and Zombies.
Yeah, Graveguard and Zombies, and have fun is like some of the guys get brought back by, I think it was Torgulis. And that was basically
I can't handle the amount of named characters in the Soulblight book.
There is quite a bit.
It's like a hard cap on my brain.
Oh, I'm fine with it. It kind of brings back the feel of the OG book that had so many different ones, and it's the only one. It's not the only one, but it's one of the few books that feels like it's still retained its Warhammer Fantasy Battle
origins and feel. Yeah.
So I love that. But I do think it's going to be it's one of those dependable workman's army, right? And it always has been, and now it seems like it's going to be even better and actually fully put both feet in this edition instead of the previous book, which was half in both, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. It had one foot in the grave of the old edition.
Oh,
I'll be here all week.
Oh, the pain. And then we've got Lizard Wizards, which
if the rumors are to be believed, are just full of janky nonsense, just like they always were.
Yeah.
So nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
We have stability.
I was hoping we would not have an update and they could just not show up on the table for a couple of months, but no. We have to have these beautiful new models that even I want to buy now.
It's funny. It's funny, right? I mean, I don't know. What have you guys heard? All I know is some Croak stuff, and that's basically hearsay.
I just want to say, before we even get into the book, like, it has been wild to see their precipitous drop in the meta watch rankings. Like, they went from an army that was consistently at the top and destroying people's faces to one of, like, they were below Cruel Boys. That's how, like, if you
good,
like,
good.
Or maybe it was the T Sports ranking. I don't know. Whatever. I look at a lot of stats.
I have a grudge against that army. I don't. Good.
But anyway, yeah. So there's one good one. I think it's been making the rounds on the internet, which is there's a slan spell where you can summon a unit of Saurus from anywhere on the board to within 9 inches of the slan, and it has no range for enemy units, so you can summon them directly into combat if you need to. And it's designed to be that sort of like. It's telling that story of, the summoning the defenders to help the slan. The problem is that there's no wording about range to enemy models, and it uses the term range to mean the range from the slan where you can set the models back up, which means things like the Astrolith Bearer extends that range, the Spell Portal extends that range. So now all of a sudden you can just set up Saurus warriors from anywhere into combat, anywhere within 18 inches of a spell or 9 inches of a spell portal.
I know you're concerned by this, Miles, yes, but let me play devil's advocate, because as we all know, this game is about supporting the narrative, and there's space wizards who imagine their old dinosaur friends fighting the enemy. All they have to do is, with their all-powerful frog minds, imagine that combat going off in the distance. Doesn't matter whether it's half a mile away.
So I can safely say I've already received questions about that book for the upcoming Hawkwim tournament in June. And I'm already like, I'm pretty sure they're going to FAQ it by then.
Yeah.
But, if they don't, I don't like lizard men. so I'm gonna separate myself from the entirety of this equation and go ask the TO community what they think, so that you get because they already know I'm like, fuck this army and everything about their lives. Like, this army is too good in every iteration it's had just for me. So like, no, like I really hope that they find some kind of balance with this book, because Seraphon are a problem. They've always been a problem in that they are either too good or they're just absolute like, why would anybody play this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as an opponent, Seraphon spent so much time setting up all of this. Here's a token for this. Here's a token for that. Like if you have a player who like writes down their tokens and sets them there for you, like an absolute scholar, as they should, like that. I love it when opponents do that. But just watching somebody make those decisions for a good 15 minutes.
Oh no, they're a brain melter army.
Is the worst. Yeah. It makes Lumineth seem easy with some of the spell like overlapping casting and stuff. So I hope at least just have that figured out.
Or I've been playing a lot against Tzeentch, and like the nice like the Tzeentch hero phase takes forever, but at least everyone just has the one spell that they came with, and that's the spell you're gonna cast. Like largely speaking.
Yeah.
There's a handful of times when that's not true, but like the Magister casts the Magister spell. Mm-hmm. The Ogroid casts the Ogroid spell. Like the Blue Scribes, they cast the Blue Scribe spell. All the little Arcanites cast the Arcanite spell.
They each have their thing, and it's relatively referenceable on the War Scrolls. So it's like, okay, I see what's
exactly. Yeah. Now there is some, when you get into Lords of Change and that kind of thing, there's a little bit more variability. But half the time, you're just casting a spell to get the point. So like whatever, Mystic Shield, like Arcane Bolt, do the thing. I just want to roll dice. Let me pick a spell that doesn't have any targetable things, just so I get the summoning point.
Yeah, and like and by definition, like armies in the hero phase that are heavy on casting, those turns last longer. I think for me the biggest pain point with Seraphon is that every one of their phases lasts the longest because they're equally balanced and they have so much crap going on in each of them. And so you're basically, if you're playing against a Seraphon army, you are essentially expecting to give up time to watch them play, right? Yeah. And for me, that's just not a fun or interactive experience. Plus, if you're in an actual like top table environment, you probably want a chess clock at that point.
Sure, yeah,
right?
Yeah. I have been practicing myself for upcoming events, just to be able to participate in those chess clock games and not be thrown the curveball.
Oh, it's great! It's great practice.
That's fair.
But yeah, that brings us to the end of the Booknado.
Yeah.
Will there be more Booknado? I don't know. We're about to come into this weekend Warhammer Fest. We know there's a bunch of teasers. I saw a constellation of orcs, which seems incredibly exciting for reasons that
I want some dark elves, make some evil elves.
So we know there's going to be there's going to be lots of stuff shown off there that'll be exciting, and I will also be there, so that's cool. I'm actually right after this podcast. I'm finishing packing and getting on a plane, so.
That's pretty fantastic. Maybe another good opportunity to highlight that we are a 2-continent, 3-time zone podcast. So we have eyes and ears and occasionally models many places.
Exactly. So if you listen to this in time and are in Manchester this weekend, I don't know, that seems improbable, even with Matt's incredibly speedy mixing. Come say hi. I'll have my absolute acid trip of a Nurgle army. And we will be trotting it to victory. It's a very slow trot that we do.
It's a gorgeous army. If you have a chance, go ahead and go look at it. You'll see it from a mile away. It's giant Technicolor dream army. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, one day this matter will settle, but for now, silver lining to all this is who knows what you're going to see, Miles. You'll have a chance to have fun, experiment with some stuff. It probably won't be that everything is super dialed in yet, though I'm sure people have been probably big branding this stuff already.
Sure.
Most definitely. And
a bunch of tryhards out there on the internet. Yeah.
Kill them good.
That is the plan.
Talk about games like they know them.
Exactly.
On the podcast.
What fools.
Those silly podcast people.
Sounds good. Well, with that, I think it's a great place to call it a day. Thank you for listening. Remember to strike last. Come say hi at Warhammer Fest. Was there anything else?
I think striking last we already covered, but can't be emphasized too much.
Yeah. So remember to strike last.
Yeah.
I got the last word.